Hello, welcome back to another weekly Tuesday telecast. I'm B, and today I'm joined by Ari from Kodak.
Hello.
Welcome. So why don't you tell us a little bit about your background with film?
My background with film. Yikes.
Strong start.
Yeah. My background with film. It was the only thing you could shoot on when I started in this business for a brief moment. So it was my introduction to making movies. I was a huge fan of movies growing up. A big part of big part in my family is we really loved movies. So yeah, I guess film was very integral to
Mm-hmm.
me learning how to make impactful images and ultimately led me to uh, go to film school, and I studied at AFI, studied cinematography.
Very nice. Okay.
Yeah. So I guess film's kind of always been there for me. Yeah. So Kodak is the last man standing in the game. So I
Yeah,
guess
it's getting pretty tight out there.
yeah. Well, it's literally just us.
Well,
Yeah.
yeah, a little bit in the stills, but nothing else anywhere. Yeah. What's that like being the last in the game?
Hmm. Well, it's interesting, right? So a lot of times we'll get calls
Mm-hmm.
at the office and some really eccentric people asking for us to prove that film is not dead. Um, so it's this interesting thing where we can't make film fast enough. So the demand of film is super
Mm-hmm.
high right now, but you still have this idea that it's non-existent. So it's funny. It's a funny thing working with film
Mm-hmm.
right now.
I feel like I'm hearing that about a lot of different industries of these, what some people would call maybe antiquated markets, like with film or like with vinyl records, stuff like that, where a lot
Yeah,
of the manufacturing processes have kind of
right.
fallen out by the wayside, and it's
You
kind
know,
of hard to revive them.
it's funny when you talk about these things and you call it antiquated, but it's again it's the only thing that's lasted.
Yeah,
You know,
absolutely.
the imagers. I mean, even the one in this camera have changed, and you can upgrade them
Mm-hmm.
every year. There's a denser photo site. There's a new Bayer pattern. There's
Mm-hmm.
a new gamma, a new LUT. There's a new processor. All these things, a new color space. But
Mm-hmm.
film has remained the same for the last 20 years, and it's a bit of a partnership in that sense. So every time the scanners or the sensors get better,
Mm-hmm.
we're unlocking even more qualities in film.
That's one of the things that really fascinates me about film is that it's kind of everyone has not everyone. A lot of people now are just so focused on digital about like, the dynamic range of this sensor and the color depth of this. But a lot of the time, it really hasn't quite caught up to film. How much more depth is there in something uh, like the Kodak motion picture stock that still hasn't really been replicated?
That's a funny um, topic to explore. Dynamic range is kind of a red herring,
Mm-hmm.
and it's just something that we can always get lost in the I don't know minutia of it all. Officially officially you'll see 11 stops, 12 stops,
Mm-hmm.
whatever. A long time ago when I was starting out in the business, yeah, I'd heard this quote from Gordon Willis, ASC, or what's our rating here with language?
Oh, go for it.
Okay, so I'll keep it PG-13. So Gordon Willis said, he said 12 stops, 5 stops, 7 stops. I've always used the same effing 5 stops. So as much as everyone kind of harps on
Mm-hmm.
dynamic range and latitude and all these things, every image I've ever seen in a theater or on a screen or on a phone, it's the same 5 stops. And
Yeah,
so early on in my journey in filmmaking, I really internalized that and stopped thinking of trying to capture every little thing in an image or through
mm-hmm.
the camera and focusing on those 5 stops that matter.
Definitely. I think that's one of the reasons why I personally love shooting on film is so many of those features on digital to me just kind of come off as like CYA, you know? You're
Hmm.
just covering your ass in case you screwed up.
Well, it's
Um,
just who cares at that
yeah,
point.
yeah, yeah,
It's
yeah.
for me
Why
it's
bother exposing correctly?
yeah, exactly. There's another famous quote that I'm not going to attribute to anybody specific, but it's been said that if DPs would just light it flat, we can make the lighting work in post. We can change
Yeah,
everything and just do it in post.
it's yeah, it's the same thing.
Yeah.
So, what is sorry, mine just went a little blank right there.
No, no worries.
Um, Working at Kodak, you have a lot of exposure to all the different film stocks. I'm sure you've tested just about everything. What are some of your favorites?
Oh gosh, okay, yeah, my favorites. Well, Tim Ryugo, if you're listening to this from Kodak Alaris, my favorite is still Ectopress 1000 for stills. No, but my favorites, if I could have it my way, I would shoot 500T and 50D all day, every day.
The extremes.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, you really don't. I mean, with the exception of Anamorphic, I think that's the only time I would pull out the '07, the 250D,
Mm-hmm.
just to get a little deeper stop. Um,
Sure. Yeah.
but I don't shoot anymore. I just shill film. It's but
Counts.
yeah, 500T and 50D. I mean, you
Mm-hmm.
can't go wrong. I mean,
Kind of covers all your bases.
well, it's kind of all you need. Again,
Mm-hmm.
it's simplifying the whole process. Is I don't need 14 stops of dynamic range, and
course.
I don't need to make sure that I have the highest highlight and the lowest low light being preserved. I
Mm-hmm.
need what's important. That's typically a subject or
Mm-hmm.
an action or a landscape or something. It all kind of it all the things that matter find harmony in an exposure.
Mm-hmm.
So at 550, I can make that work. But again, that's just me. I'd love to hear what other people think. 500 again. All right, you're gonna put me in a position to really, really take a swing at digital, aren't you?
Listen,
I don't
I'm
want to
not
be
going to
that guy.
encourage that,
There's a
but
situation for every medium. I just
Mhm.
personally prefer film, and I serendipitously found myself
Mhm.
working for Kodak. I never thought I'd be here. Only been
Yeah,
with
yeah,
Kodak for a
yeah.
year, but it's been fantastic. It's a great company to work with. I think film is magical,
Absolutely.
but if you really want me to take a piss at digital, I will.
Listen, I you don't have to if you don't want to. I'm here to maybe more highlight film than shit on digital
Sure, sure,
specifically.
sure, 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 sure.
But we can absolutely.
No, no,
That's
no,
also
no, it's
fun.
fine. My favorites are 500T and 50D because that's all I ever need.
Mhm.
I know what I'm gonna get.
Definitely.
I know that 500 I could push it if I really wanted to accept the grain. I could push it 2 stops, and I know I'll still
Mhm.
have it. With the 50D, I know that even after the sun goes down for about an hour, in most situations, I'm probably
Mhm.
still gonna be able to shoot. I know that I can probably push that a stop, probably just a stop, and still get
Definitely.
something reasonable. And I've been and they haven't changed. The formulation hasn't changed in our Vision 3 for
Mhm.
15, 17 years. So I'm used to it. I know what it's going to be. I know how it's going to
Definitely.
react under that light or that light or that light over there.
I think that's one of the things that kind of gets lost in the. There's this constant struggle for improving cameras and getting the new digital and the new this and everything. And I think what kind of gets lost is mastering your tools. picking one medium and sticking with it until you know it inside and out. And I think a lot of people online maybe forget that that's as important as it is.
Well, it's finding your vision. I mean, I
Mhm.
think it's so hard. I think it's so hard for somebody. Most people get into this because they have an affinity for art. They
Mhm.
have a voice, or they're trying to find that voice, or trying to find that vision and express it. And if everything you're trying to use to articulate your voice changes all the time, and if you can't
Mhm.
grasp on anything, if they're to make that firm, you're gonna have a rough ride. Um, you know, I, whenever I meet filmmakers that are starting out, I just try to point them towards film for that reason. You know what you're gonna get,
Mhm.
despite seeing it later, which is an exhilarating experience. I hope everybody gets to try it. Um, being able to predict outcomes
Mhm.
lets you focus more on what you're trying to say and less emphasis on how you're going to say it, if that makes sense.
Yeah, yeah,
Do you
absolutely.
shoot? You do.
I
You
do.
were
Yeah, yeah,
shooting at
yeah.
the Kodak house.
Absolutely. I think I went to film school probably a bit later than you, but luckily my school still had a big program with 16
Where
millimeter.
was that?
I went to school in UW Milwaukee.
Shout out to UWB Milwaukee.
I loved it. It was amazing. There's a big experimental 16 millimeter program. There's in-house development, which was incredible.
Mm-hmm.
So I took every 16 millimeter class I could get my hands on. They had a fleet of Bolexes available. So that was kind of how I learned to shoot, which was amazing.
Mm-hmm.
I think it really, I recommend that to anybody starting out is shooting on film. Your failures will be spectacular, but it also helps you learn, I think, way
Totally.
faster. It's kind of forcing you to do things right. Um,
Isn't that funny? You can't
I
see it, but
know.
you still, but you, yeah. I think the lessons are greater because you can't see it right away.
Definitely. Yeah. I think a lot of my classmates who were shooting only on digital
Mm-hmm.
really didn't stop to think about their camera settings ever. They would just make it look okay on the screen and, like, oh, it's not blown out. Good enough.
Well, yeah. I mean, I think you end up shooting less. I mean, when you get to the economics of it all, you
Yeah.
end up
Yeah. Yeah.
shooting less, right? Because you're making sure everything's right before you press that button.
Mm-hmm. I think, yeah, I mean, even aside from the cinematography side, which
Mm-hmm.
is much more my
Mm-hmm.
background, I think one of the other big advantages of shooting on film and kind of budgeting your record time like that
Mm-hmm.
is you kind of forced to rehearse your performances a lot
Mm-hmm.
better for something like a narrative, or really consider the timing and the planning behind what you're doing. Not everyone shoots like that,
Mm-hmm.
obviously. Some people with a
Well, it
bigger
must be
budget,
terribly
but
difficult. I mean, I've seen when I was working on set, I can
hmm
just imagine how it was difficult for me in my position, my low position on set. But to see directors having to share a monitor with everybody on set, and everybody, while valuable input, but you're there trying to mine gold out of a performance from this
hmm
other person. It's a terrifically difficult thing to do, to direct another human being.
definitely.
And at the same time, you have everybody in their craft, poking at the monitor saying, is that too dark? Is that too light? Or what about that stray there? And oh, there's that in the frame. It takes a tremendous amount of focus, and people who can do it, I mean, hats off to you.
Absolutely.
But there's something, the directors that I know that really fight for film, they, they really find something special in having ownership over that vision and the intimacy that is then inherent to the relationship with the actor when it's
hmm
not the final vision isn't there for all to see. I keep pointing at this monitor and it's only you and I can see it.
Yeah, I think that's a really kind of powerful point. there's this I don't know. I primarily shoot digital now. I
I
think
shoot on my iPhone 100 times a day. I mean,
absolutely. But I do think there's something not even necessarily about in this regard necessarily about the film itself, but more about your approach to shooting. And I think shooting on film encourages that approach in a way that digital doesn't.
I'm kind of funny, right, and a little hypocritical because I'm
Mm-hmm.
as much as I'll preach the reverence of
Mm-hmm.
every frame and the discipline and everything. I also am a firm believer of just go out and shoot. Just
Absolutely.
just just
Mm-hmm.
try it. There's this it's this there's a unique duality, right,
Mm-hmm.
in the sense of you need the discipline, but you don't. You as long as you have faith in what you're doing
Mm-hmm.
and just accept that light's going to enter a lens and go into a box with a
Mm-hmm.
capture medium in it, and then everything else is kind of negligible and you'll figure it out.
Yeah,
And
I
just
think.
trust like what's here is going in there.
Mm-hmm.
It it's probably going to be fine.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Um, yeah, there is. We kind of touched on this earlier, but there is something kind of freeing about not seeing your image right away, just believing that it will work and
100%.
getting back to it later.
I can't see me right now, and that is
Mm-hmm.
very liberating.
Oh,
I can see
absolutely.
you, but if I saw me right now, I'd be
Oh yeah, I'm
freaking
trying
out.
not to look at me.
Yeah, very self-conscious.
Yeah. Every once in a while, we'll have like the live stream. We'll have a giant TV with it
Hmm.
mirrored on the side, and
Yeah.
it really stresses some people out. And I wonder why.
Yeah. I'm kind of the worst person to ask questions about gear because I've never cared about gear.
Interesting.
Um,
Okay.
yeah, for me it's always been it's a camera obscura.
Mm-hmm.
It's a box with a hole in it and some light goes in and an image comes out.
Interesting.
Um, that being said, let's talk about your lenses.
Absolutely. Yeah. So for anyone watching this stream, I would assume you know that we are Atlas Lens Co. and we make anamorphic lenses.
Yeah.
Um,
I remember I remember when Atlas I remember when you guys I started up. I don't know what's it
yeah,
just
yeah,
came
yeah.
out.
It would have been back in like
Yeah.
2016 or
Yeah.
so. It was just a couple people fooling around with glass in a
It was
garage.
wild. I was a hater. I thought there's no way people are just going to make anamorphic lenses on their own. Here I am.
Who would have thought?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Somebody off camera give me my hat, I'll eat it. Uh, yeah, it's kind of wild and I that's the kind of just, make it happen, just do it, just shoot, figure out a way
Mm-hmm.
that that's the kind of attitude that I love in filmmaking. I don't want to call it bootstraps. That's kind of antiquated, but
Mm-hmm.
just having faith that you can make it work.
Definitely.
Yeah, I was totally. I was one of those people that thought, oh no, only big companies can make anamorphic
Mm-hmm.
lenses. That's really hard. Have
Not
you
naming
tried
names.
bending? Yeah, not naming names. I love all of my children equally.
Mm-hmm. Um, yeah. So I think one of the fascinating things about anamorphic historically is that it was kind of designed for film. And nowadays it's kind of anachronistic
Hmm.
almost. Um, Originally, for anyone who doesn't know, all these movies were being shot on 35 millimeter 4:3 aspect ratio. And the business side of the industry and a lot of the directors wanted more spectacle. They wanted to go widescreen. They wanted these giant panoramic images. For a while, it was let's shoot 3 cameras all at the same time on this ridiculous rig, and then we'll project 3 projectors at the
How
exact
wild
same
was that? Was
time.
that Cinerama? I don't
Yep.
remember.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, yeah.
Cinerama.
It was one of the first of that format, and it was very cool and a nightmare to work with.
Mm.
So that one didn't last very long.
Yeah, yeah. It was funny to see. Funny. It's funny to see the resurgence of anamorphic in the
Mm-hmm.
course of my career because it was always it was always oh, it looks cinematic. It looks like film.
Mm-hmm.
It's so funny that everything's always trying to capture, like you were saying, the original, the heyday, the golden age of cinema, and
Yeah,
how
yeah,
how we
yeah.
did that, which I can use this. I'll segue this into Justin DeMillo's.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, sorry if I butchered your name. Question. He said, "Have you seen any movie shot on film recently that inspired you?" Absolutely. Um, the reason this dovetails. Strange Darling. I saw
Yes.
Strange Darling. I don't get to see movies as often as most people, but Strange Darling was the last one on film that I shot that was really inspiring because it used anamorphic in a more traditional sense.
Mm-hmm.
Um, when anamorphics are starting to pop up again in cinematography, it was very much for the funny characteristics of anamorphics. It's
Right.
the
It's
flares,
kind of
it's
the
the bends,
leftover
it's the,
language.
oh yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah, yeah. It's, well, how do I make it look more
Mm-hmm. Remember Raiders? We love Raiders.
film? Yeah. Everyone, we love Raiders now. Yeah. But Strange Darling, uh, um, Giovanni flipped it, that whole visual language,
Mm-hmm.
and used, he was shooting at a deeper stop. So
Right.
you weren't getting all of the wide open characteristics of the lenses. That was
Mm-hmm.
your lenses, right?
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah,
No,
yeah.
it was shot on our Orion series, which is also
Shout
what
out
we're
Orion.
shooting on right now.
Yeah. Yeah, we're probably not shooting at a. I think he shot at like an 8 or something too.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Wild boy Giovanni.
Very classic.
Yeah, well, yeah, they're shooting at these deep stops, so you're getting the the pristine version of that
Mm-hmm.
lens, not like a clinical way. Everybody kind of conflates those two, but it's this. I really want everybody to go see this movie to see how you can use anamorphic in the best sense.
Definitely. Yeah.
That was really profound to me because and you get to see you in that movie. You saw film being utilized for its saturation and color, which a lot of people have been afraid of for a long time for some reason. I have theories about log imaging and that.
Definitely.
Yeah, so it was very beautifully colored, beautiful depth of field. The best split diopter shot I've ever seen is in that movie.
Really
Yeah. No spoilers, but it's in there.
impressive.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm trying to think like.
As if I'm some sort of voice of authority, but it was the
I'm.
best.
Listen, I think if it spoke to you that much, it has to say something, right?
I'm just a nerd.
We are.
Yeah.
Listen, you're in the right audience. I
Yeah.
think this is exactly what we're here
I,
for.
I legitimately watch stuff that I can't hear
Mhm.
because I'm just watching the visual language.
Absolutely.
My wife will come in the room and say, "How can you hear that?"
I can't.
I can't.
God, that reminds me. I when I first moved into my apartment, my speakers weren't set up, but I had the TV going, and I was just testing something out, so I put on one of my favorite movies, and then I realized
What
after
is it?
The Killer, John Woo, 1989.
Nice.
Best action movie ever made. Everyone watch it. So I just put it on to test out the TV, and I found myself silently sitting and watching this movie, just no sound. I was like, wow, here we are. I was loving it just as much as I ever did.
Isn't that great? Isn't it great
Yeah,
that you can experience something like that with your eyeballs?
definitely.
I
Absolutely.
hear it's
Yeah.
coming around more. So now that I guess because of all the, God, I'm gonna sound like such an old person. I almost said it because of all the TikTok. No, but because of I was reading that because there's so much subtitled media out there.
Yeah, yeah.
This is a more natural way to consume visual media, is people don't necessarily need to hear what's going on because they're okay with reading it. So
Mhm.
sorry for the non-US audience out there, but foreign cinema is having a resurgence in younger crowds. Thanks,
Definitely.
TikTok.
That's an interesting. I haven't heard that perspective before. I could definitely see that having an impact. That's really interesting. I'm like kind of processing that.
Yeah, I'm
Very
full
cool.
of trivial knowledge. Ask me anything.
Got to think of something. Anyway, back to like movies shot on film.
Yeah.
I'm trying to think of something that comes out recently. I've been watching so many old movies lately. I just saw Far From Heaven, Todd Haynes movie from 2002. That's heavily inspired by All That Heaven Allows, the 50s melodrama. And just seeing the way that they're kind of using film to get these colors and using this very classical kind of 50s melodrama lighting style to bring that back, it was really fascinating. And then I just got to see Whatever Happened to Baby Jane. They did a 35 mil projection at the Los Feliz Theater. Incredible movie. And just, I don't know, something about those that era of black and white, something about the tonality really worked for me. Like the way they lit it and the way that the film was kind of handling the shadows. It was, I don't know, very inspiring.
Do you shoot black and white?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What do you shoot?
That's mostly what I came up on. In school, I was always shooting Tri-X reversal 16 mil. Just because at my school it was, cheaper to not make a print, so we were just projecting all the camera originals. But yeah, and then since then on stills, I do the stills Tri-X is my favorite go-to. I always push it to 800. That's my default. Is just Tri-X at 800. Gives me what I want every time.
Yeah. I learned a lot in school. So we had a dark room at Fairleigh Dickinson University, Madison, New Jersey. Good luck if you can find a great school. We had a dark room, and I used to shoot T-Max 400.
Yeah.
God, I probably should remember that with your first question, because that was foundational to my journey, is being able to be with film in this medium, from taking the photograph to printing it. Just there's nothing in terms of photography. I have 3 kids, so I have to be careful with my hyperbole, and there's nothing like
right.
No, there's nothing like
not you guys.
Yeah. There's nothing there's nothing photographically as profound as watching your print develop in the chemistry under a safe light. There's something I studied the chemistry. At one point I could tell you exactly what was going on in sequence, but I would still sit there and to this day and go, no, that's just magic.
Yeah,
but that's just
it wasn't there.
That's
now
just
it
sorcery,
is.
because that's how I feel.
Absolutely. No, I had a very similar. I've never been able to print my own stills, but a lot in school, and then a bit after, I would develop my own stills and then scan them in myself. So there's something just so deeply satisfying about just having a day off, going for a walk with my camera, getting home, developing, and there are my photos. I did it all.
Yeah. I revisited this in 2020, deep in the pandemic. I shot, this is when we couldn't go anywhere and all that stuff, and it was just overall shitty. So I thought, oh man, I gotta have control of something and just slow down. So I had a roll of probably Tri-X or something that I was sitting on, and I shot it around the house and developed it in coffee. And there was something, the whole caffeinol. Look it up. It's fun. There was something really powerful to that experience, to be able to do that again and just do it with stuff around the house.
Oh, I've been meaning to do that for years.
It's fun.
Such a cool process.
It's trippy. And again, so once you get over it has to be perfect mentality. I need every bit, from 0 to 255 or whatever, 1024 for the whatever high bit rate stuff is. You don't need every single one of those things. You need to slow down and capture something that matters.
Definitely.
which can
Yeah.
be funny. I know I'm probably sounding like a real curmudgeon and depressing, but like it could be have
Yeah.
fun.
No,
Just
I think that's there's kind of an attitude that if you have the tools to make it perfect, you have to make it perfect.
right.
And you just don't.
Yeah.
And
What's the
there's
goofiest
something.
lens you guys have?
Oh man.
Is it that wide one? What's the widest one?
We have the widest anamorphic lens in the world is our 18 millimeter.
Get out of here.
It's
18?
ridiculous. 18 two times anamorphic, so it's a 9 mil spherical equivalent. It's ridiculous. It's one of the coolest lenses we have.
Who's been using that? I want to see it in action.
Yeah, it's been.
I'm not gonna like I can't go downstairs and just look at it. But
Oh yeah, listen. After this,
Pause.
we'll take a look. Yeah, it's been a lot of like music videos, a lot of more abstract kind of dream sequence stuff. One of the original launch videos we did with it was we had a skate videographer take it out. So he was like,
Yes.
he had his red camera and this giant anamorphic lens, and he was just on a skateboard, and like people were doing flips over him, and he's tracking him with the camera. It was ridiculous.
That. All right. Done.
Yeah,
Give
awesome.
give it to Yorgos.
Yeah, well, he shot with the 21 on.
Not wide enough.
Not wide enough.
No.
No. Next time.
Yeah.
We'll get him next time.
We have a question.
Yes. Can we talk a little bit about film resolution in relative terms compared to digital?
Oof.
It's
Oof.
kind of.
I mean,
it's not a direct comparison. We can talk about
we
it.
can talk about resolution, but again, I'd probably. Yeah, we can talk about resolution. So technically speaking. All right, yeah. So it really comes down to what you're considering an acceptable image, right?
Yeah.
Which is there's relative thresholds, and then there's kind of industry thresholds. Some of them are set by entities that I don't know, whatever. Anyways, so yeah, so I've heard that you can scan Super 8 up to 6K. And then the person who told me this, who runs a scanning business, said, "But why?"
What's the yeah?
So yeah,
you spend all that money.
You can do it. So
and you will have detail, but
yeah.
that detail may be more of the grain.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So there's kind of there's limits to all these things. There's limits to the amount of information that we the viewers want to see. There's limits to what the projectors can project, or what imagers and the compression algorithms. There's
a lot of it kind of comes down to the misnomer of resolution. Where you have the concept of digital resolution, which is specific numbers of this many pixels by this many pixels. But resolution really is more about it's a more subjective measure of detail, which is kind of a combination of sharpness and contrast and micro contrast, and it's all these little qualities that kind of build up your image.
Exactly. So that's the thing. It's the quality. So again, this is why I'm kind of the worst person to talk to about technical stuff, because I, in my spare time, read about it too much, and my general attitude is like, why does it matter? So just going down the list, I'd say it's 4K, 6K for 16, 8K, and I think. So 70 is not a film format; it's a projection format. I think we make 65 millimeter film, and it's utilized in different ways and called different things. Sometimes it's called IMAX. Sometimes it's called other things. What is cooking here? It smells amazing.
Oh, it's probably lunchtime.
You poor people.
Oh yeah, we're like 20 feet away from the lunchroom here.
I shouldn't have showed up hungry, but yeah. So I think 65 it caps out currently at 12K. I think. Do we have a fact checker on your crew?
I was gonna say, Justin, you mind checking on this?
Yeah. Pull it up, Justin.
Yeah, I would say. So yes, we can kind of assign those numbers.
Well, yeah,
but I think it kind of depends on again, like what you consider an acceptable image for your project,
and then why. Um,
Mhm. I
the
think, yeah.
I unfortunately, when I started out in this business, we were still framing 4:3 safe for standard definition televisions because that
Yeah.
was still a consideration. Um, so as much as every filmmaker out there is trying to attain the highest impact, we're also compromising for the lowest impact
Mhm.
medium. Um, so I guess just average them out and say 4K because that's the highest delivery format, widely available
Mhm.
delivery format. But to what B's saying, it's all about that. The pixel resolution is, who cares? It's going to change when they swap out the sensors and all the scanners. It'll double
Mhm.
in the next 10 years. That's just that's
Yeah.
Moore's law.
And
The
one
one
thing,
that counts is your color, right, or
absolutely.
your brightness, right? So your
Mhm.
brightness values, anything that is actually translating into an image, because the pixels are, they're just the outline, right? So
Mhm.
it's like when you have a coloring book, when you look at it, there's there's lines, there's negative and positive space, there's a shape
Mhm.
there, which is what the pixels are defining, but it's the brightness and the saturation of those pixels or of those photo
Definitely.
sites or
Like
of the grain that is
it's
going
worth
to
it's worth
really inform what
mentioning
it
that
is.
like an iPhone can shoot 8K
All
and
right.
the Arri Alexa Classic can shoot 1080, but it's the best 1080 you've ever seen. So
Calling it a
it's kind of,
classic is mildly offensive.
it says classic right on the box. Yeah, it says classic right on there.
Classic.
That's what they told me.
I am sure it's older than that camera.
Who knows? But yeah, I think the other thing that's maybe more important than resolution
Uh
is
huh.
the qualities that those different
Yeah.
formats
Well, do you guys
apply.
look at? I mean, you make lenses, so
Mm-hmm.
that's very important
Mm-hmm.
to resolution, right? Because look, I could put that lens on a lower resolution. I don't know what the MTF
Yeah.
output of that
We
lens
can
is.
put our Orions on something like Rebel T3i,
No, right,
and it'll work.
right. It'll work, and you'll probably get an impactful image
Mm-hmm.
because it's a beautifully crafted lens
Definitely.
with character, and it's doing funny things with the light to get that horizontal
Mm-hmm.
picture and everything. But there's a resolution cutoff in there. It's called the Nyquist limit, by the way. That's a piece of my AFI MFA that y'all got for free. Nyquist limit. Check it out on Wiki.
Amazing. I haven't heard of that one before. I'll
Yeah, it's just
have to look
it's
into that.
basically the intersection of I might be referring to it incorrectly as an intersection, but it's where it's the limit of information input and output. So it's basically
Mm-hmm.
like it's yeah something like that. Justin, pull it
Look it
up.
up on your own. Yeah. But yeah, I think for me the distinction between something like 16 and 35, or in the digital world, Super 35 and full frame, is more about the depth of field qualities, the kind of the impact it has on your image beyond resolution.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's one of the things that can be very attractive about something like 16 millimeter
Mm-hmm.
is it's giving you a different image. You're using different lenses. You're using this kind of different approach that, again, much like using anamorphic on digital, it
Yeah.
speaks to some quality of bygone eras that we
Mm-hmm.
can kind of, we don't need to shoot on 16 millimeter
Mm-hmm.
now, but we've seen a bunch of movies and TV shows that were shot like
Mm-hmm.
that, and it has a very distinct quality to it that we can kind of tap into.
Yeah, I think with film, you something that film excels at and anamorphic lenses help with is there's something literally tangible
Yes.
about
Mm-hmm.
a film negative in the way that it's interacting with light and everything. Um, and then when you have an anamorphic lens on it, again, it's there's something that is malleable about the
Mm-hmm.
image that you're crafting. It's not an approximation. It's not a compression. It's well, technically it is compression 2 to 1, but
Mm-hmm.
whatever. You know what I'm saying.
Yeah, Dan always likes to call anamorphic the original Kodak. You're literally compressing more information into a smaller space. Um,
Wait, there's no proper distributors in India for lenses or for film.
I would expect that's referring to lenses. We are working on India more. I believe we're going to be
Come on,
at
B.
Broadcast
Do you have
India.
any idea
We'll
how many
see.
movies are made in India?
Listen, that's preaching to the choir. Okay, we're we'll get there. We'll get there. I promise. Don't take my word for it, but I promise.
It's hard. It's hard. I get it.
Mhm.
We're our Super 8 camera is we just cannot make them fast enough.
Really?
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. I have a handful of them in office just for demo units to
Mhm.
try to get filmmakers like you and you and you and you to try out this camera before it is fully saturated in the market.
Mhm.
I could have 50 of these cameras in office, and 49 of them would go out in one day, and that's just because people are still so excited to shoot Super 8. But again, we have the same issue. It's hard to grow internationally, but
Definitely.
patience.
For anyone watching who doesn't know, what can you tell us about the new Kodak Super 8 camera?
Oof. Um,
Brand new film camera.
yeah. What can I tell you about it? What can I tell you that I haven't told everybody before? You know, I signed up to buy this camera. That was one of those people.
I remember when the original
Yep.
announcement came out. It
Yeah.
was
Again, way
yeah.
before I ever thought I'd work for Kodak.
Mhm.
I was excited at this idea of having a brand new Super 8 camera because look, I mean, I'm sure everybody watching this and everybody in this room at some point got a used film camera,
Oh,
and you're
I got a
kind of
pile of them.
exactly you get a pile of them because well they're cheap, right? Because they're used, but you're also they're almost disposable, right? Because you can't fix them most of the time. All the
Mhm.
parts are decades old. And when Kodak announced that they were going to have this brand new Super 8 camera, I thought, frickin' finally, something
Mhm.
reliable that I can shoot film on. And it doesn't have to be 16 or 35. It's an easier medium to just run around and shoot. And the whole design of the camera was very attractive to me because it was it was designed for you to pick it up and shoot it. It
Mhm.
kind of embodied my whole ethos of just don't worry about it, just go out and shoot. And
Mhm.
Super 8 as a medium, because of its size, is really leans into that. It's very
Definitely.
easy to just capture something. Yeah, yeah. I guess I have one here. I might as well talk about it.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Don't drop it. It's a prototype. I'm just kidding.
Go ahead and drop it.
Yeah. I'm not kidding. I've seen. I think it's this exact body. So this is actually. So because I've sent all of mine out for various projects, this one belongs to our lead engineer. It's his personal camera. I've
Oh wow.
seen him tee golf balls off
Oh
of
my
this
god.
just to prove
Stressing
how
me out. Yeah.
indestructible it is. The only thing that broke was the lens.
Well,
The,
who
I
needs
mean,
the lens?
that was the funnier of the two. The cringiest one I saw was him kicking it down steps.
Oh my god.
He,
So
he
it's very reliable.
oh yeah.
And if not, he's the guy who knows how to fix it.
Yeah. So what can I tell you about it? I mean, it's let me power it up.
Yeah, I've been very excited by this whole trend. I've been seeing it in
Yeah.
the stills market too, of people making brand new film cameras, and I'm really hoping it's a trend that continues.
Well, yeah, I think we went through 20 years of it being this kind of magic sauce on how you make a camera. It's there's a
Mhm.
sensor and there's a really sophisticated software and
Mhm.
there's log encoding. Ooh,
Mhm.
there's
It's
S log and B log. And
kind of come to its logical conclusion.
right. And I think everyone's just kind of looking for something a little more simple.
Definitely.
Oh yeah, there it goes. So yeah, I mean, I don't. It's hard to describe it to people without them
Mhm.
being here. That's where I'm struggling about because I could really just be like, oh yeah,
Yeah.
look, you have a SD card for audio. There's a LANC port. There's a charging port. You put your film in right here. It's all these features, but the only one that matters is this. I mean,
Yeah.
that's the part that excites me most is that there's a brand new camera that has all of the modern amenities. I mean, like I got a digital viewfinder in this thing. I
Mm-hmm.
can go from shooting here to here and not have to put my eye on an eyepiece. It's literally made for you to go out and shoot. And again, you could scan it up
Just
to
lowering the
4K.
barriers. Yeah.
Yeah, it's just lowering it's well, look, it's also people ask me all the time. They say, "What's it like shooting 35 millimeter? I've only ever shot Super 8. I've only ever shot 16." Well, it's all cut from the same wide roll of film.
Mm-hmm.
So I have Vision 3 stock in here right now. It's the same Vision 3 stock that
Mm-hmm.
is on a major motion picture studio down the street or
Mm-hmm.
on a commercial in the UK. It's
All
this
comes from the
yeah
same
yeah
factory.
it's yeah it all comes from the same thing. So to be able to have a piece of modern tech
Mm-hmm.
that is again leveraging the power of film, I mean that's been really really exciting. And honestly, like I was excited to get the camera back when I signed up for it 8 years ago, 7 years ago. But now being able to go around town and have people come to the shop in LA and get the camera in the hands of other filmmakers, that is the most exciting part.
Oh my God,
Yeah.
I can imagine. I mean,
Yeah.
we do the same thing here with our lenses. We every Wednesday we have our open house here. We've done the collaboration open house with Kodak in the past.
Yeah.
Hopefully, we can
Yeah.
get something like that
Yeah.
again. But
Well, we put the 40 millimeter. We put an
yeah,
anamorphic
yeah, yeah.
on this camera, which was stunning. By the, Amy Vincent was in house,
It was amazing.
and we put an anamorphic on the Super 8. Everybody wants to shoot anamorphic on this. That's the other thing that's this interesting.
Never would have happened in the past.
Well, no, of course not.
Mhm.
Of course not, because you would have to take it to some vendor in town, and then they'd have to
Mhm.
make you an adapter, and then you'd have to really fight for it. Be like, why? Why are you putting
Yeah.
anamorphic on Super 8? And I
Go
think
go to Panavision, rent some C series, and
well, yeah, well, well, thanks to people like you and
mhm.
Kodak taking the initiative and really fighting for a brand new Super 8 camera to enter the market. We've together we've made a entry point for people who
Mhm.
want to get that cinematic look, who they want to shoot film, they want to shoot anamorphic. Like that shooting Super 8 anamorphic was the kind of thing that I spent untold hours researching on the internet in like 2007,
Mhm.
just hoping that there was a way to do it. And it's so exciting to have young filmmakers come in the office and that's their A plan. That's what they
Yeah,
want to
yeah.
do. Yeah, it's been fun.
Another question coming in. Any advice for someone shooting on film for the first time? I would say just do it. See what happens.
Yeah. It's the same advice I'd give to somebody shooting on digital.
Mm-hmm.
Plan.
Definitely.
I would say planning is very important.
I think on a very basic technical level, the most important thing is making sure you know how to expose.
Yeah.
You get your light meter, or
Yeah.
I've even in the past for specific shots, I've used a digital camera and just matched the exposure based on that.
Yeah, that one's a trap. That
Yeah.
one's a trap because now you have something to show. So people
definitely.
will go.
This was it's a good story if you
Yeah.
want to hear it, but go
No,
ahead.
I'd love to hear it. You want to finish your shot?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
So
go
this I only ever did it for one shot. It was a double exposure I was doing. I was trying to use a lighter to look like fireflies. So I had this clean plate, and then I went against black Duvetine, black glove, black sweater, and just had this lighter, and I was moving it around. So I used that specifically because how the hell do you expose for a lighter and keep your background black? So I just got it barely close enough to where it was, yeah, that'll probably work. And in that case, it was kind of perfect because everything was dark. I didn't need to worry about the exposure. I was just getting this one shot. But yeah, no, I agree. I think on set it can be a trap.
Yeah. I guess, my technical piece of advice, Justin, would be bring a meter, any kind of meter. Again, things have changed so much, and it's really exciting. I I've had the same meter for 15 years, but I've
Mm-hmm.
recently, especially shooting with this. Oh yeah, built-in meter, light meter, by the way. Um, what I use an app. I use an
Yeah.
app
Yep.
called Lumu or Light Meter. I think it's Lumu,
Mm-hmm.
and it's just a digital spot meter. It's available on iOS and Android. It's a no-brainer. I mean, like you can have a light meter in your
Mm-hmm.
pocket
You
that will
always
last
have it
all
on you.
day, and it's a great reference. So I guess like a technical advice is to just use your meter, trust your meter,
Mm-hmm.
and trust yourself. Just because you can't see the final image doesn't mean that it's not there. Give yourself a little more credit. Give yourself the credit that you would have otherwise assigned to essentially a marketing department at some camera manufacturer. Um, a lot. It's kind of incredible how often you will see a wall of hashtags that is crediting every single piece of gear and workflow that was used. Uh, it down to like it'll be down to the battery. Like
Mm-hmm.
I've seen people tagging every single thing, and then I get
Yeah.
like it's you're hoping to get promoted and
Mm-hmm.
cross post and everything, but you're the one that matters. It's you're the one who ultimately decides to record the image. You're the one who set the camera. You're the one who panned. You're tilting. You're
Mm-hmm.
focusing. You're zooming. You're the one who chose the focal length. You're the one who chose the stock, the ISO. Like that's you. So give yourself a little credit for all of those choices you made. You deserve it.
Absolutely.
And trust yourself.
I think that's great advice. Awesome. Well, if we don't have any more questions coming in, I think we can start to
Is
wrap
that a
it
good
up
wrap
there.
up?
Yeah, I
I
think
didn't mean
so.
it to
Yeah.
be.
No, listen, we've been going almost an hour now, and I think that was a great piece to end on.
Yeah.
So again, thank you so much for coming
Yeah.
in.
Yeah. Happy to be here.
Yeah,
If
anyone
you
watching? Oh yeah, go ahead.
anybody in LA, I'm in shop pretty much every day in Hollywood at 7758 West Sunset Boulevard, 10 a.m. to let's call it 1 p.m. Just walk in. I'll answer any of your questions. I'm here to help first timers, last timers.
Absolutely. Hopefully not last
Yeah.
timers. Yeah, don't go to the Kodak house. You won't come home alive.
Halloween's coming.
Ooh, you guys have big plans?
Maybe.
Ooh, ominous. Same thing here at Atlas. We have our open house every Wednesday, 10:30 to 1:30. Come down to our HQ in Glendale.
Yeah.
We have all of our lenses available for testing on a bunch of different cameras. Bring in your own camera.
Is
It'll be
the
fun.
18 millimeter here right now?
Absolutely, it is. Yeah, all of our lenses that we've ever made, including some that we don't sell. Got a whole pile of experimental
Oh boy.
stuff. We've got our spherical lenses, which we have one set of in the world. Yeah, come on down, check it out, and
Go shoot.
absolutely go shoot film, make a movie.
Yeah.
It'll be
Hashtag
great.
Kodak shoot film. I did the thing. I did the thing. All right, I'm done. I swear. I swear.
All right, thank you guys so much for watching, and we'll see you next week.